Hello everyone, this is the 30th time that I'm recording this video. I felt like I recorded the perfect video, but I fucked it up, and so now I'm here recording it again. Welcome in the life of a YouTuber. Anyways, everyone learns. Learn by your mistakes, they say. I will learn my lesson, okay? I will learn my lesson. But anyways, let's be serious right now, because we have to be serious. We have to be serious. Literally me not being serious at all. So today I want to talk about LGBTQ plus movement. Actually, I want to talk about different trends that are penetrating the youngest generation's mind, and we have to destroy. But we are gonna start by the LGBTQ plus movement. So I feel like this movement used to be an actual fight, like a legit movement where people were not fighting, but people were demanding for their, rights, for their freedom. Like, people wanted to be free to express themselves, right? And nowadays nowadays it has become more of a trend, right? It's not anymore this fight. I feel like someone is using this fight in order to, I don't know, but I feel like someone took this initial fight, and transform it into something else, because nowadays it's just a lot of fluff. Like, there's not any more authenticity to it, there's no any more integrity to it. Like, people want to be part of this movement, of this group, first of all, because obviously people are trying to find themselves, but we spend a lifetime to find ourselves. But when something is not a fight and something becomes a trend, a trend is different than an actual fight. A trend is something that people jump on in order to be, in order to impress, in order to be fashionable, in order to be accepted, in order to be more recognized, but not truly recognized in their essence. They want to be recognized on an egoic level. And the reason why so many children and teenagers are jumping into this movement, even though they are not actually gay or trans or whatever label they choose to identify themselves in or to. Sorry, the articles are always hard for me. The reason why children are doing that is because they are developing an ego, right? When you're really young, you do not have an ego yet, but then you want to develop your own ego, and the ego is not like your true identity, right? So what happens? A lot of children are really impacted by social media, and social media now is, pushing, literally pushing trends as being part of this community. And there are the shops or brands that are literally putting the flag, like LGBTQ plus flag, just to get more money. Maybe they don't even care about the actual movement, because it's a trend. This is what's happening. It's just like an attempt to have more views, more popularity, more attention, right? But let's remember that attention is not love. They are two separate things. One fits your blueprint, one fits your true self, and the other one fits only your ego, and your ego your ego can crumble at any time. So like children reflect the community, the family, and generally the environment that they are in. So I remember one time I was on a bus, and there were these like 9-10 years old boys, and they were like saying things like, oh, this woman is a bitch, something like that. And I was like, what the hell, like, are you for real? So is that person really like, is the child really like is the child really hates women, or he's just imitating his dad or a random dude on TikTok, right? And let me tell you, like, these children are all day on TikTok, and it's a very weird place to be. Like, I had to delete TikTok after 2 months because it was driving me crazy. But anyways, this is not about TikTok. Children want to fit into the society. Children are dependent on the community and on the environment. That's why they want to impress. Like, they are building this new identity, and now they want to be, you know, they want to be fashionable, they want to be cool. It's normal, like, we've all been there. So this happens, for example, as a way to rebel, right? To rebel to heteronormativity, to rebel to the rules that your parents, like the boxes that your parents wanted to put you in. If you had like a very controlling, if you grew up in a very controlling environment, you want to rebel to that, or you just want to, you know, avoid basically something that is uncomfortable to you. For example, let's say you have sexual trauma, right? You want to avoid it, and you jump into, like, you are like jumping under those other label. For example, if you're a woman and you experience sexual like assault or trauma from a man, you might jump under the lesbian label because it gives you a sense of safety, right? And you know, this can happen like in many ways. Like, there are so many examples of this. Like, a lot of children or teenagers are just trying to heal from the freaking, you know, absurdity that we were fed, you know, in our society, whether it's pornography, whether it's like, you know, the gender stereotypes, whether it's, you know, all the, you know, trauma around sex that we had growing up. But let me tell you this, I feel like we are going into a direction that is going to bring us even more trauma around sex, especially when we let those children or teenagers that think that they are gay just because they are trying to, or trans just because they're trying to avoid their pain or rebel to something or trying to be fashionable. When we let them like transition, so that means making a decision that will irreversibly change the technology of your body, the blueprint of your body, your voice. Like, you will be on medication for the rest of your life. you will be really desensitized in your genitals and so on. Like now you can, like I would say you can get informed, but the point is that a lot of, you know, these gender affirming surgeons or a lot of these, you know, activists are actually keeping a lot of informations away from people that are transitioning. And now, like, you know, people are discovering those things and they're like, what, like, why did the doctor never told me that? You know, we are talking about an irreversible change, and a change that, like a sex change, like changing your genital, like cutting off your genitals, like is literally, for me, it's literally mutilation. And you know, if you are well informed and you still decide to do it, like, you do you, of course. Like, I'm not gonna stop you, but I feel like people really need to, you know, be informed and to understand really, you know, different sides, yeah. And what was I saying? So you will never ever have like your original blueprint back after you decide to go to a transition, right? You will never be able to return to yourself, to your original self, let's call it like that. And so that's why you don't want to like make this type of decision just because you were like a teenager looking for their identity, or just because you were running from your sexual trauma, or just because you realized, well, I was just trying to fit in my class, or I was just trying to fit in the environment because I felt like, you know, I wasn't cool enough or I wasn't interesting enough. So, you know, I just wanted to be recognized, but that wasn't my real identity, right? So, and like that's where it's really getting like dangerous, because like it's really traumatic. Like, it's really traumatic to have your like sexual, like intimate parts removed or modified. And in my opinion, I call it like contemporary age. I don't know if that makes sense, but I call it like contemporary age rape. Like that's how I see it. Like, well, there are many levels to it. Like, obviously, like surgeons get a lot of money from it, so maybe they don't want to really tell you everything. Like, maybe they are looking to take advantage of, you know, a 12-year-old child that is like looking for their identity, right? And that's where it gets really weird. And maybe we should abandon for a second our political correctedness and try to, you know, look at this from a new perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to have your children or your friends or like, you want to have their best interest in mind, right? And sometimes the best act of love is not affirming them. Sometimes the best act of love is not enabling them. Sometimes you need to speak your truth, and maybe you can plant a seed, and maybe you can even, you know, make them realize, oh wait, actually I know I can just get into a office and, you know, get testosterone or whatever drugs, or I can get into a room and get my breast, like cut off my breast. But let me think if there is more to it. Like let me analyze, like, where is this choice, and where is this need coming from? Like, is this choice based on the fact that I am rejecting my femininity, so I am trying to kind of take a, how is it called? You know, like the smallest street, bro. I don't remember. A shortcut. Like, are you trying to, you know, take a shortcut and have a quick fix to an original problem that you are trying to avoid, that is too painful to unpack now? And do you see like hope in this new gender, in this new identity? Because it's a very common thing that people, like, you know, especially younger people that did not unpack their trauma yet, you know, people that do not have, like, still, that they are not like mature enough, you know, they will see the change from a gender to another as this new opportunity to be a new person. And finally, when I will be a man or a woman or non-binary, whatever, I will finally find my true self. I will finally be free from this, you know, trauma, from this lack of acceptance, or from this, you know, lack of forgiveness towards I don't know what. So yeah, they wanna be free from this problem, but one day they realize, oh wow, now I have another problem. Like, you are not freeing yourself from the problem, you are adding another problem in your life, and you know, it's irreversible. Like, there's no way to go back. Like, if you decide to cut your breast off at 14, and then what the hell is 14 like? Well, anyways, compassion. If you decide to cut your breast off at 14, and then when you're like 20 or 22 or 25, you realize, oh wait, like, first of all, I'm a woman, and second of all, I want to have children, and I will never be able to breastfeed my children. Like, that's not cute. It's actually, like, I feel like this, like, a lot of people that are detransitioning feel like they have been really, like, used, and that's exactly what happened, you know. Like, the older generations, like maybe even, you know, my generation, or like, you know, my father's generation, my parents' generation, they had porn, and obviously porn was is definitely, like, I definitely see it as an attack to our sexual energy, you know, to control people's sexual energy, because sexual energy is powerful, and so we are more controllable if we do not know how to use it. So I feel like we had pornography, but that's the same energy that's reflecting nowadays, is misleading children and teenagers that are looking for themselves, misleading them into thinking they're trans and getting them to like irreversibly paralyze, mutilate, and change their genitals. And that's where our sexual energy is created. So yeah, it's it's definitely like really sad, especially when I hear stories of detransitioners, which just now they're like thousands and thousands. Like imagine like in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, because there are not so many there's not so many boundaries into that, like doctors are not giving so many boundaries when it comes to this. They're actually really affirming everything. And maybe someone is doing it from fear, from fear of being labeled as transphobic. Someone is doing it intentionally, they know they're taking advantage of you and they just want to get money, or I don't know what other perversion people have in their heads. But yeah, I feel like it's just important to be aware of everything, before taking a decision that is so life-changing. And another thing, what is even 18-year-old, 12-year-old, 8-year-old, but even 18-year-old is still a child. My mom was pregnant when she was 18 and got me when she was 19-year-old, and she told me I actually wasn't ready for a child. And unfortunately, this is what happens to people who make such important decisions when they are really young. That's why I always tell the people I date that even though one day I would like to have children, I do not even think about marriage before I'm 26, because I know that that's when my brain will be a little bit more developed. I personally think that it starts to get really developed around 30 years old, and then you have your first Saturn's return, so you're becoming more mature, because that's what Saturn is about. So around that age you can say, okay, I'm mature, I know who I am now, I experienced myself fully, and I can take important decisions such as marriage, or having children, or cutting off parts of my body and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, in my opinion, I know 18-year-old is the legal age for many things, but in my opinion, it's still really young. When I was 18, I didn't know shit. I still don't know shit, probably. Yeah. So yeah, it's just really young for me, and it's just really sad what's happening, and it's really I don't understand if people are not aware of the implications of what's happening. Are people really so disconnected from their bodies, which can totally be a thing. In at least in Western society, we prioritize the mind and everything that is logical and rational. And oftentimes we, because we prioritize the mind so much, we create even more separation, we create even more division, and we do not actually, heal and look at ourselves. We rather react to our traumas and try to find a solution using our brains, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it creates more separation and more chaos and more disconnection. It's like a continuous loop where someone is trying to sell you the solution, and then with that thing you will develop something else, so they will sell you another solution, right? It's like a loop. And I feel like if you are not self-aware, if you did not develop a level of discernment yet, you will be taken advantage of those realities. It is what it is. And actually, before I move on, I want to recommend you this video, because I feel like what got me here is this video that I will leave you here, which is really heartbreaking and is really hard to watch, but it's the truth. And in this channel, we are not living in denial. We are welcoming the truth, even though it hurts sometimes, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's not politically correct. So now that that's out, let's continue with our topic. So let's just jump into the heart of the conversation. I really feel like this is another attempt to really destroy and control our sexual energy, because what is gender on a fundamental level? Gender is a universal law, and gender is, we have feminine and masculine energy, which are the basis of our expression, right? No matter who you identify as, you have those energies within you. So, and when you do trauma work, for example, if you're really aware of those energy, you will understand how every time you heal a part of yourself, you are also restoring your natural blueprint. You're restoring your feminine energy more, you're restoring your masculine energy more, right? You are restoring your natural blueprint. We store our energy in our root chakra and in our sacral chakra, so it's like the lower part of our bodies. And the fact that when you have a sex change, you are literally mutilating those parts of your body is really making me think, and is really making me think the fact that this now is a trend, right? And there are a lot of other things that don't work anymore. For example, pornography doesn't really work anymore so much, because a lot of sex workers were speaking about and saying how that they were being pimped, if that's a thing, and being abused and being underpaid or stuff like that. So people some people at least and sites and stuff like that lost some money in there. So I feel like people are trying to do something new, and I feel like this is the new rape. like this is the new rape. Like when I saw the video that I suggested before, like the part that irritated me the most is when the doctors were talking about the person's genitals in a very like emotionally detached ways, like if that's not really the most important and vital part of your body. And yeah, for me it just straight up feels like rape. Like that's it, like that's the energy. You know, people who are trying to be trans because they are avoiding the sexual trauma, you know, are ending up again in the same loop and in the same situation when they're being exploited. And you know, it's very common then when we have trauma, we might end up, you know, in the same situation, in the same loop a few times before we actually, you know, become sovereign of ourselves. So I feel like that's what's happening for a lot of people, and it's really disgusting. And I feel like we really failed as a society when it comes to this. Like we really failed. Like I cannot imagine how lost could a person like feel when they understand, you know, that man, this, like I changed, I did these irreversible changes to my body, and no one checked on me, no one asked me if this is the right decision, and everything just affirm me and say, yeah, so cool, yeah, let's celebrate, you know. Like I feel like there is too much openness, and too much openness is never the right way to do things. And it's interesting because, you know, I've frequented a lot of dominated LGBTQ plus spaces while I was in Finland, which was in the past 3 years. And you know, a lot of people who are in those spaces nowadays, they literally do not have any boundaries. Like they really struggle with boundaries. So you would understand why they are there in the first place, right? For me, it's clearly like another way we are enabling, you know, sexual trauma to happen to young people. And obviously I'm not saying that like a person who is legitimately trans cannot do it, or that I'm against it. Again, like people can do what they want, and people can also make mistakes. But if we can be an example for people, if we can be an example and help them to, you know, avoid those mistakes and give them, you know, new role models, new examples, healthier examples, if we actually help them, you know, base their identity, you know, if we help children really explore and find their true self, instead of, you know, letting them get into this, you know, need for approval and need to be fashionable and be cool. And if we like raise them in a way where they, you know, developed when they have like a secure attachment, and they are, you know, secure in themselves, in their boundaries, in their body, in their sensations, then those things will not happen, you know, whether it's, you know, rape or sexual trauma, or, you know, realizing that you permanently changed your body, you know. So I opened this big topic just to say that I feel like it's time to realize that our sexual energy has been under many attacks and has been manipulated in many ways nowadays, especially in the West, where I told you, like, you know, like here we are so just disconnected from our bodies because we do not value our body. We value more an ideology. We value more, you know, just you know, the mind. So we are more disconnected. But anyways, let's try to reconnect to our body. Let's do it like all together. Like, if you like, the best gift you can give to other people is your example and your own, you know, energy and your own embodiment and your own self-knowledge, you know. And people will look and learn from you, you know. So let's try to give this to each other from now on. Let's try to learn more about our sexual energy and how does our like blueprint feels like. And let's try to get really in touch with our heart, with our body, with our feelings. Let's unpack our traumas, because if we avoid it, it's gonna show up in our lives. Again, you cannot pretend or expect that when you will be in another gender, then you will be another person. You will be still you. You will still be you. As well as some people like feel like, oh, when I will have children, I will be so happy and I will not have problems. No, you will have more problems, you know. You cannot escape yourself in by, you know, trying to, you know, convince other people that you are this new person. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, sooner or later that's gonna come back at your door and you will have to deal with it. So yeah. So yeah, another trend that needs to like be over now is this trend of like over glorifying, you know, black people or people from that have like specific roots, people that have like, it's really the over glorification of marginalized or seemingly disadvantaged groups of people, right? It's really unattractive. It's not attractive, it's not cool. Those people are not an experiment. Those people, like, people's cultural roots, people's skin color is not something that you have to see as cool, because that to me sounds like you're not really respecting them. It sounds really disrespectful, right? To over idolize people who, you know, are in like come from like are in a, you know, disadvantaged or whatever you wanna see it as group. And it's more like a narrative, like, and it's very interesting because, usually people who think like that see everything as black and white and don't see things as nuanced, right? Okay, I'm gonna continue with this piece later. So let me just first give you an example of what I mean by people who glorify you for being like part of a marginalized community. So I used to be a stripper, if you don't know already. But I remember that while I was in Finland, I was at a party and I was talking to a person, and well, nothing was really going on in the conversation until she asked me like, what do you do? And I told her, well, I'm a sex worker, I work into a strip club. And like suddenly I was so special to her. Like suddenly she seemed like it seemed like she was respecting me more just because I work in a strip club. And that really makes me feel unsafe. Again, like usually those people make me feel so unsafe because you clearly do not honor me. Like you're not honoring me. Like that's really disrespectful. And it's just like gross. It's gross, especially because being a sex worker should never be cool in the first place. It's not cool, it's not empowering, it's not. It's just not. Like no one would do sex work if it wasn't like for survival. No one would fucking do it. Like we hate it, and sex shouldn't be entertainment in the first place, in my opinion. So, it's really like, I don't know, it's like, yeah, I get that, you want to feel safer, and it's good that if that's really like the only option you have, you want to feel safer and have more rights. But I feel like we are over that, and it's dangerous when you glorify something like that, because it's really nothing to be glorified. Like it has to end. Like in my opinion, a country that allows sex work or allows women or men to do sex work is a country that has failed, because you have failed to teach young people to have a secure relationship with their sexual energy. Because trust me, like no one would ever allow like dirty, perverted men to touch them for free. You know what I mean? Like no one would want to do that. People do it for survival, and we need to also end the fact that people are in survival in the first place. You know what I mean? So it is not fucking cool. It's not cool. Then, so yeah, usually people that frequent those spaces, and we can call like, the activist type of space, the woo and also the activist thing has really become, something different, really different. So, but anyways, usually people that are in those spaces do not get like nuance. Like they do not get complexity. They think, for example, like if you are a black woman, you certainly cannot vote for Donald Trump. Like they really divide people so much, and they cannot see them as complex human beings. And I feel like that's also really dangerous, right? to like divide people so much and strip them from, you know, their like normal right to be complex and to have different opinions and stuff like that. For example, I remember when I was in New Zealand and I was living with a family. Oh, it was so nice. But I was living with a family, and the mom was always taking me to places. Like, she took me everywhere. Like, I'm so grateful for her. She gave me like the best vacation of my life when I was in Rotorua. But anyways, and one day we were driving. We were coming back from the sea, and while we were driving, I saw like on my right there were so many people like on a motorcycle, and it looked like a gang, you know, like. And then she told me, oh yeah, that's actually a gang. That's why I was scared to drive next to them. It was like mango, called something like she told me mango, and I understood mango. But it was like mango, yeah. Anyways, and then she told me, like, I don't understand how those people have a swastika, all those people have a swastika tattooed while they are brown people, like they are Maori, right? So I'm like why? Why can't you understand it? Like, just because someone is brown or black doesn't mean that they are not like they're just humans. Like, their identity is not just dependent on their skin color, and not everyone is following like the mainstream like activists on TikTok. You know what I mean? People are complex and people are free to subscribe to what they want. That's how I see it, right? And so I was like, yeah. So there is like a lack of, I feel like it's, you know, a lack of humanity. And you, like, when I meet a person, I do not judge them, or I do not make assumptions about them based on the skin color. You know, it's more like the conversation, or, you know, I don't know. And I am not interested, oh wow, there's also this point that this really pisses me off. Like, I really don't understand this need of bonding over traumas, bonding over skin color, bonding over whatever category you wanna fit in, or yeah. Especially if it's like bonding over something traumatic, like, oh, we are women and fuck men. Like, are we really bonding over hate? It's different from, oh, we are women, like, tell me something about, you know, womanhood. You know, it's different. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays, young people, are bonding over like diagnoses, traumas, or, you know, this need to rebel and to, you know, be fashionable, which again is an egoic identity. That's not a real identity. That's not the real you. Even your diagnosis is not the real you. That's just an attempt. You know, if you have like ADHD, just your body trying to protect you from an intense emotion that you haven't felt. So it's not your identity. And it's really weird to me that people are bonding over that. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to bond with me, do not bond with me over my traumas, and do not find me interesting because of my roots, or because of the work that I've that I do, or that I've done, like, especially if that is rooted in trauma, like, let's bond on other things, right? Like, let's dance, let's, you know, go for a swim, let's bond over our love for nature, let's bond over other things, you know. Let's try to, you know, pour into each other, like pour love into each other, right? So yeah, love, this is really, love is really what we need to exercise more. We need to love ourselves, we need to love each other, and we need to, you know, stop subscribing to narratives that, you know, they seemingly, you know, portray or want to, you know, be seen as, you know, something that is right to do, seem okay, but then they actually divide us and they actually separates us even more, you know. Yeah, and I just wanted to add another thing about, you know, the person who over glorifies black people or indigenous people, like in a fake way, you know, in a fake way. Like, over glorification is never good. Like, appreciation is different. Is different than that. But I'm sure you can get it. Like, if you live in society nowadays, you get it. Or even like over glorifying trans people, even over glorifying sex workers, like, you know, it's not cool. It's not cool. Because, you know what? When you do that, you are basically telling yourself, and I feel like I touched on this topic in my second video, my most recent video. But when you do that, you are like basically telling yourself that your roots are not enough, that you are not enough cool, that you are not enough special. And that's not true. And let's try to go a little bit deeper, because again, wanting to be cool and wanting to be special, wanting to be, you know, seen in that way, like, that's not really wanting to be seen. Like that's your ego identity. You just want an ego boost. But if you actually like create a real relationship with yourself and with your ancestry and with your roots, you will never ever going to do that again, because you will realize that you are a powerful human beings and there's no one else like you. You are you have a unique footprint, you have a unique you have a unique light signature, I'm sorry, that no one else has. And you know, like, there's no one like you know what I mean? And also like, if you really if you're tapped into yourself, you are tapped into your ancestry, because you're not separated from your ancestors, you know. And every person has a gift, and every ancestry line as a gift, every culture as a gift. And I realized that we have those gifts because we are here to, experience each other and help each other. So when I am in touch with my body and with my true self and with my light signature, I can show you my gift. I can give you my essence. And that essence I'm not only giving to you, but I'm giving it to Mother Earth, And when we as people and as cultures and as ancestry powerhouses put together our gifts and learn from each other and learn from our ancestral wisdom, like if my young people teach me a lot about their ancestral wisdom and they add to mine, and then Maori people have told me. My phone died, so I'm gonna quickly close. I was saying that I learn so much when I connect to other cultures or people from other cultures that are very in tune with themselves, and you don't even need you don't need like your parents to be these pagan people like that pray to the earth to be connected to your ancestry. You just need to close your eyes and just feel into yourself, and let's stop even assuming that all people that are part of indigenous groups are like like stereotypically like so connected to the earth. No, that's something that we choose independently of our skin color and where we come from, etc., etc. So close your eyes and let's try. Okay, we've seen what went wrong in society, we've seen how disconnected we are, we looked at ourselves in the mirror. Okay, now where do we want to go? I feel like inside is the best place to go, right? Know yourself, connect to your ancestors. You don't even need to know them in order to connect to them. Because you are alive, like you are your ancestors, you are not separated from them, like it's in your DNA, right? So let's connect so that we can give and we can serve and we can inspire, and we can be a better example for teenagers, right? Because when you're connected to yourself and to your truth, you're not teaching your children to follow some trends. You're teaching your children that it's important to connect to your truth, and that's a very important virtue, if we want to call it like that. That's a very important teaching that we can pass on, not only to our children but also to everyone around us. So thank you so much. If you arrived at the end of this really long video, I am really happy if this video left you something, and I'll see you again. I'll see you again. This light is not so good. Wait, let me see. I don't know if it's my Capricorn moon, but I just love suits. I'm nervous. nerves. Welcome or welcome back to my like how like whoa.